Every time you tap a screen, someone gets paid, not just the company you think you're buying from. Your click might trigger a chain of tiny payments to cloud providers, payment processors, ad networks, data brokers, and platforms you've never heard of. You get a package at your door, a video in your feed, or a ride to the airport. But in that transaction, in that moment, who actually wins? We retold that the digital economy is a win for everyone. Customers get convenience and low prices, workers get flexibility and new opportunities, and businesses get access to the whole world. Yet, when you look at who is quietly collecting the largest share of the money, the data, and the power, the picture is a lot less equal than it seems. If you're curious about how that scorecard really works, who comes out on top, who's holding the reins, K, and where you fit into it, consider subscribing to Digital Economy Explained. Here we unpack the hidden rules of the online world in clear, practical stories so you can understand the system you're already living inside every day. Now imagine a dark map of the United States at night, seen from high above. City lights glow like constellations on the ground. But overlay that map with something else. Rivers of light flowing between cities representing digital traffic. Streams of data pulsing from homes to data centers, from phones to satellites, from offices to cloud servers. In that glow, specific points shine much brighter than the rest. New York, Seattle, the Bay Area, Northern Virginia, and huge anonymous server farms in the middle of nowhere. Those are the hubs of the digital economy, and when money moves through this glowing weeby, it tends to pool around those same bright spots. To see how, let us narrow our view down to 3 people, all living in that same digital United States on the same weekday. In a small apartment on the outskirts of Atlanta, a rideshare driver starts their car before sunrise. They open an app and wait for the first ping. Across the country, in Phoenix, a woman who left her corporate job is packing handmade jewelry orders for her online store, printing labels she bought at a discount through a shipping platform. In a glass tower in San Francisco, a software engineer working for a giant tech company logs in from their kitchen table, their laptop connected to internal systems by a secure VPN. All 3 are part of the digital economy. All 3 win in small ways by using digital tools. The driver can earn money on their own schedule. The jewelry seller reaches customers in states she's never visited. The engineer writes code used by millions and earns a salary that would have been unthinkable in their parents' generation. But watch what happens when a single dollar moves. The driver gets a ride request. The airport is 20 minutes away. The rider pays through the app. A portion of that fare goes to the driver, but before it reaches their account, the platform takes its cut. A fraction goes to a payment processor. Another goes to a card network. The driver covers gas, wear and tear, and unpaid time between rides. The jewelry seller receives an order from Chicago. The customer pays $60. The marketplace platform takes a commission. The payment platform takes a fee. A discount she offered to be featured in a recommended products carousel reduces her margin. Shipping eats another chunk. Whatever's left is her profit, and there's no guarantee of more orders next week. The engineer spends the day fine-tuning a recommendation algorithm. At the end of the year, they may get a bonus or stock options. But the real compounding wealth from that code, the billions in market value created if it keeps users engaged a little longer, accrues mostly to a small number of major shareholders and executives. In each case, the digital tools make the work possible. But when you trace the flow of money outward from each person, it keeps circling back to the same kinds of winners, the platforms that sit in the middle, the financial rails they run on, and the investors who fund them. To understand why it helps to remember what the old economy looked like before everything became so connected. Picture a busy American downtown street in the late 1970s. There's a hardware store, a clothing boutique, a travel agency, a bank branch, and a diner on the corner. People walk from storefront to storefront. When they buy something, they hand over cash or write a check. The store owner takes that money to a local bank. If the business does well, maybe they open a second location in the next town. In that world, the winners are visible. The store owner with the best location, the factory owner with the most efficient production, the bank that lends wisely. Wealth is tied to physical things: land, buildings, machinery, and inventory. Power is local. Then the internet arrived. At first, it looks like a faster way to deliver information. Emails replace letters, websites become digital brochures. You can look up store hours or flight schedules without making a phone call. It feels like everyone will get a fair shot. A customer in Florida can find a small business in Iowa. A band in Ohio can upload a song and be heard in California. But as more people and businesses connect, something else starts to happen. Because the internet is so vast and chaotic, people need ways to find things. Search engines step in. Because there's more content than anyone can read, platforms that curate and recommend, like social networks and video sites, step in. Because buying online is scary at first, trustworthy marketplaces and payment systems step in to handle transactions. These platforms solve real problems. They make life easier. But the way they're built means that as they get bigger, They become dramatically more powerful than their competitors. The more buyers use a marketplace, the more sellers need to be there, the more sellers list products, the more buyers have to show up. The more users a social network has, the harder it is to walk away because your friends, customers, or audience are still there. This is where the digital economy starts to tilt. Instead of thousands of small intermediaries, local newspapers, independent retailers, and regional distributors, you get a small number of giant digital intermediaries. And in almost every transaction, they take a slice. So who really wins? On the surface, one answer is you do. As a consumer, you can now compare prices from dozens of sellers in seconds. You can have almost anything delivered to your door. You can stream more movies and music than any physical store could hold. You can find tutorials for nearly every skill on demand. There is real value in that. Think of a single parent in a small town who can now order groceries online after a long shift instead of dragging tired kids to the store. Think of a student who can watch free lectures from top universities. Think of someone who can find work-from-home gigs after being laid off. But every benefit has an equal and opposite effect on the other side. Low prices for consumers often mean razor-thin margins for sellers, especially smaller ones who can't negotiate special deals with platforms or suppliers. Fast delivery means intense pressure on warehouse and delivery workers. Free services funded by ads mean your attention and data are sold to keep them alive. The real winners are the players who can sit in the middle of all these trades, owning the digital roads instead of just driving on them. Take money itself. It used to work like this. You got a paper check, deposited it at a bank, maybe withdrew cash and paid with cash or checks. Or now your salary is directly deposited. Bills are paid with autopay. You tap your phone at a terminal. You click a button to send money to a friend. When you buy something online, there's no visible exchange, just numbers changing on screens. Behind those numbers is an interconnected system of payment processors, a card network, digital wallets, and bank APIs. Each one charges fees, sometimes a flat amount, sometimes a percentage. For a $5 coffee at a local cafe, a few cents might go to the payment system. For a $5,000 online purchase, that fee becomes much larger. Fees on 1 million transactions add up to a steady river of revenue flowing toward the companies that operate the rails, not the ones that make what rides on them. In the digital economy, the companies that own the rails don't have to win every single deal. They just have to be in the room every time a deal happens. Now zoom into work. For some people, the digital economy has been a jackpot. If you write code for a major tech firm, design popular apps, manage cloud infrastructure, trade digital assets, or advise companies on their tech strategy, you might have seen salaries and bonuses climb much faster than almost any other field. Stock options in growing tech companies have turned some employees into millionaires, and these are clear winners. But they're not the only ones the system relies on. Consider gig workers, rideshare drivers, delivery workers, taskers, and remote customer service agents. They benefit from platforms that create opportunities where none existed before. A driver can log on and earn money tonight without ever stepping into a traditional HR office. But the same platforms that create opportunity also control almost every aspect of that work. An algorithm decides who sees which jobs, what they pay, and in what order. Customer ratings can make or break someone's income. Policy changes, lower per mile rates, and higher platform fees can slash earnings overnight. Deactivation can happen with a short email, sometimes with little explanation and no human appeal. In this part of the digital economy, who wins? Platforms win by taking a cut of every transaction without assuming the long-term employer obligations. Customers win with lower prices and faster service. Gig workers win sometimes when demand is high and competition is low, but they also absorb most of the risk. No guaranteed hours, no employer-sponsored benefits, and the constant need to chase the next task. Then there is the creator economy, people making videos, podcasts, online courses, newsletters, and live streams. On the surface, this is a massive redistribution of opportunity. Anyone with a phone and an idea can star, no need to beg a TV network, record label, or publisher for a chance. Some creators absolutely win big. They build audiences in the millions, earn money from ads, sponsorship, S-merch, and subscriptions. They hire teams, launch brands, and sometimes even rival traditional media and influence. But for every creator earning a full-time living, thousands are posting regularly, chasing views and likes, hoping that the following algorithm change doesn't sink their reach. They don't control who sees their work. The platform's recommendation engine does. They don't set ad rates. The platform and advertisers do. They build their audience on rented land. The platforms win in almost every scenario. Whether creators rise or fall, as long as they capture billions of hours of human attention, platforms can sell that attention over and over. Think about a streaming video platform. A user in Ohio watches a 12-minute video, then another, then another. During that time, the platform might show 5 or 6 ads. Each ad spot was auctioned off in real time to advertisers who were bidding for access to that person's attention. The platform takes a share of the ad money, often the largest share. Content creators might get a slice. The viewer pays with time. Across billions of views, the platform becomes immensely profitable, not by producing most of the content, but by hosting and organizing it, and by controlling the recommendation engine that decides what you see next. It is the same pattern over and over. Real value for participants, but outsized value for the gatekeepers. One of the most potent assets in the digital economy is something you can see or touch: data. Every search, every tap, every GPS ping, every thumbs up or thumbs down becomes a tiny data point. Platforms collect these points into vast data sets. With them, they can train machine learning models to predict behaviors. Who is likely to churn, who will buy a particular product, who will click, who might be a fraud risk, and who is a good candidate for a loan. The winners in this game are the players with the most data, the best models, and the easiest access to computing power. They can fine-tune their operations, target their ads, and even create new products based on patterns nobody else sees. Take online retail. A platform that knows what millions of people buy when they purchase, what they search for, and what they abandon, can design its own competing products with almost surgical precision. It might seem that many customers are searching for a particular type of phone case with certain features, and that the existing options are overpriced. The platform creates its own line of phone cases, positions them prominently in search results, and gives them a slight price advantage. Third-party sellers who spotted the opportunity first suddenly find themselves competing with the very platform they depend on. Who wins? The platform that owns the data and the shelf space. Who loses? The smaller sellers did the initial work of sensing demand and building products. Now let's talk about investors. When a promising digital platform is young, it often runs at a loss. It offers free or cheap services to attract users who spend heavily on growth and tells investors a story. If we can reach enough scale, if we can become the default, then we can profit later. Venture capital firms and institutional investors fund this growth, betting that a few big wins will more than offset many losses. When a platform succeeds and goes public, early investors often see enormous returns. In effect, the digital economy has shifted a large part of the upside to people who can buy into these stories early, usually wealthy individuals and institutions. Ordinary workers and consumers might benefit from the services, but they share in far less of the long-term financial gain. That doesn't mean regular people can't invest in tech companies through stock markets. But by the time a company is public and widely accessible, a significant portion of its explosive early growth has already been captured. Meanwhile, the pressure from investors to keep growing shapes how platforms treat everyone else. It encourages behaviors like increasing fees over time, adding more ads to every corner of an app, pushing for more data collection, and experimenting with engagement hacks that keep people using services longer. In this way, who really wins isn't just about who uses the apps most skillfully. It's about who owns the infrastructure and the claims on its future profits. At this point, you might be thinking about your own place in all of this. In your life, do you feel like digital tools have helped you win more than they have helped someone else win off your time, your work, or your data? Has a platform, an algorithm, or a policy change ever suddenly boosted or damaged your income, your small business, or your career? I'd actually like to hear your story. Share it in the comments. Those real experiences reveal how this system feels on the ground far better than charts or headlines. Of course, the story of winners in the digital economy is not all gloomy for individuals. There are new classes of people who have managed to use the system to their advantage in surprising ways. A small-town craftsman goes viral on a social platform and turns a local woodshop into a national brand through online orders. A nurse in North Carolina starts a side business, teaching health basics on video, and eventually replaces their full-time job with income from the course. A programmer in rural Colorado works remotely for a big city company, earning a city salary while living in the country. These are real wins, and they're only possible because digital infrastructure exists, cheap publishing tools, global payment systems, affordable shipping, and cloud-based workplaces. But even these success stories rest on deeper realities. Most of these winners are highly skilled at navigating platforms, understanding algorithms, and managing online audiences. Their wins are often fragile, dependent on continued favor from systems they don't own. So we arrive back at the bigger question. When we step back from individual stories, who really wins in this digital economy? One way to answer is to think in terms of layers. At the surface, individual consumers win with speed choice and sometimes lower prices. Workers win when they can use platforms to find better jobs, work remotely, or build side incomes. Small businesses win when they can sell outside their immediate neighborhood. Below that, there's a layer of service providers, logistics companies, cloud hosts, software vendors, and consultancy firms. Some of them win substantially by selling tools and support into the digital boom. Below that are the major platforms, search engines, marketplaces, app stores, social networks, payment systems, and cloud providers. They win by being the roads and bridges connecting everyone else. They collect tolls on nearly every crossing. At the very bottom are the asset owners, those who own large stakes in these platforms and in the funds that invest in them. They win when the entire digital ecosystem, with all its human activity, grows and becomes more profitable over time. The closer you are to that base where ownership and control sit, the greater your share of the winnings tends to be. But there's another dimension besides money: power. Power in the digital economy means the ability to shape rules. Who can participate on what terms and with what visibility? Power means deciding what gets ranked at the top of a search, what content gets removed or boosted, what fees get charged, what data gets collected, and how it's used. Here, the real winners are fewer still. A handful of global companies, a small circle of executives, product managers, engineers, and large shareholders hold the levers. Governments can push back with regulations. Users can go back to their behavior. But day to day, those core decisions are often made inside conference rooms and code repositories most of us will never see. That doesn't mean individuals are powerless. When enough people change habits, boycotting a platform, migrating to alternatives demanding better data protection, companies notice. When enough workers push back, laws begin to change. When enough small businesses complain, regulators take an interest. But to steer something, you first have to see it. If this explanation has helped you see more clearly who tends to win and why, consider sharing this video with someone you know, not as a scare story, but as a way of saying, this is the water we're all swimming in. It's time we learned its currents. The future of who wins in the digital economy has not yet been written. Artificial intelligence could widen the gap, concentrating even more power in the organizations that already have data and resources. Or it could level the field in some areas, giving small players tools once reserved for big ones. New regulations could rein in some of the most extreme forms of data exploitation and platform control. Or weak policy could allow old patterns to deepen. More consolidation, more opaque scoring systems, more dependence on a handful of corporate gatekeepers. New kinds of digital communities could give creators and workers more direct relationships with their audiences and customers, reducing their reliance on a single platform's algorithm. Or those communities might themselves become new platforms with the same old incentives. In your own life, that you may not be able to rewrite the code that runs the global economy, but you can choose where to place your time, your money, your work, your heart, and your trust. You can diversify your income streams so you're not at the mercy of one app. You can build relationships with customers or audiences that go beyond platform walls through email lists, direct contact, and offline connections. You can choose to pay for services that respect your privacy instead of only using free ones that monetize your data. You can learn enough about how these systems work to notice when a win comes with hidden costs, and you can keep asking that uncomfortable but necessary question. In this transaction, in this workplace, on this platform, who is really winning? If you'd like to keep exploring questions like how algorithms decide what you see, why some jobs are exploding while others vanish, and how online platforms quietly rewrite the rules of money and power, subscribe to Digital Economy Explained. Each video builds on the last, so over time, you get a clearer picture of the system as a whole. Before we finish, I'd like you to think back over the last year of your own digital life. Was there a moment when you felt like you won because of the digital economy? Maybe a remote job, a business, or a creative project that only worked because of online tools. Was there also a moment when you realized someone else was winning a lot more using your data, your work, or your attention? Share one of those moments in the comments. Those stories are how we turn an abstract economy into something real and human. As we close, revisit that image of the glowing map of America at night, highways and neighborhoods below data streams, and digital pulses above. On the ground, people go to work, cook dinner, take care of families, and worry about bills. In the air, it platforms trade, and impressively, algorithms adjust prices, while servers move money from account to account. The winners in this system are not just the ones who click the fastest or shout the loudest. They're the ones who quietly own and operate the roads everyone else travels on. They were the ones who designed the game board before most people even knew there was a new game. But games change. Rules get rewritten. New players emerge. Public attitudes shift. The digital economy is still young compared to the industrial systems that came before it. We have time to influence how fair it becomes. The next time an app tells you you just saved $10, or a dashboard tells you you earned $200 Tata, why, or a platform congratulates you for hitting a milestone, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, who else got paid here behind the scenes? Who set the terms of my win? Who is getting richer every time this little victory repeats? Now, those questions won't make the system disappear, but they will make it visible. And once enough of us can see clearly who really wins in the digital economy, we'll be in a much better position to decide what kind of economy we want next.